Hey students, welcome to another one of our videos that we are releasing this year to help our students. Today we're going to look at Piper investments again. Today we're going to look at the investment decision where we look at an NPV calc, and I'm just going to go through the question and give you some advice and tips, on some pitfalls and common mistakes that students make to help you going forward, especially with this topic today. So today we're talking about Piper investments. We already did the video on the WACC. Obviously, as you know, you need the WACC to discount the future cash flows or the projected cash flows to determine on the investment decision. As I'm sure you know by now, remember to separate the investment decision and the finance decision. It's a separate thing. So you first do the investment decision and say, okay, yes, I'm going to go forward. And then second of all, you do the finance treatment. So just keep in mind that those two are separate. So just to look, the first part of Piper Industrials is regarding the WACC. We already had a video regarding that. So I'm just going to go to the second part of the question. Okay, right. So the financial director of Piper is of the opinion that the group should expand into the solar power sector. He is proposing that the board considers the acquisition of a manufacturing plant. Okay. Um, just for interesting sake, we can make this manufacturing company. So the free cash flow and the net present value calculation with capital budgeting is very, very similar. So I think that's why the free cash flow is so popular, because we can cover more topics in one. We can catch two birds with one stone. In order to manufacture the Bopper solar panel, the BSP, the engineering and marketing department supplied the following information regarding the proposed solar panel. The cost of the plant is 58 million. This will be paid at the start of the first year of the project. This is important, okay, to see how this will be paid. When we get to the solution, I'm going to refer back to this again. Okay. The product is expected to have a 4-year product lifespan. It is estimated that 10,000 units a year will be sold during the first 3 years of the production. However, demand will drop to 8,000 units during the final year of production. The BSP will be marketed at 15,000 per unit in the first year. In the second year, this price will increase to 17,000, and it will increase every year thereafter by 12% per annum. Direct, all-inclusive cost, so this word direct is very important, will be 12,000 Rand per unit in the first year of production. The cost will increase by 10% in the second and third year of production. However, in the fourth year, it will only increase by 5%. Working capital requirements will be 1.6 million at the end of the first year. Very important. You'll see when you get to the solution, you got to look at these part. At the end of the first year, at the start of the first year. You see the difference there. This will increase to 1.8 million in the second year and will peak in the third year at 2 million. At the end of the fourth year, only 75% will be recovered and the balance will be absorbed into the existing business. For the purpose of this evaluation, the directors have stipulated a weighted average cost of capital of 18.25. Okay, so in this case, the WACC has been given. We can, however, incorporate a WACC question where you first need to calculate the WACC like we did before, and then you have to bring down that WACC in your calculation. That's where you'll see the carried forward or consequential marks. SARS will allow allowance on a manufacturing plant of 40% in the first year and 20% over the next 3 years. The group applies the same policy for depreciation as for wear and tear. At the end of the life, the plant will be sold for 1 million. Okay. Okay. What I want to get here now is I would have done this question the other way around. First of all, they ask, briefly discuss the qualitative factors that Piper should consider when deciding on whether they should supply solar panels. Usually I would have the calculation first. In my exam papers, I would have the calculation first, and then second of all would be the discussion part, the qualitative factors. As I'm sure you are aware by now, is that SAICA is moving much more towards discussion questions. As opposed to calculations. I think the split that happens currently is about 60% discussion and 40% calculations. So the students are always worried they can't get the calculations right, and they go over their time when they do the calculations, and then they actually forget about the more important part, the discussion part, which usually carries more weight. Okay, so I'm going to do part B second, and then I'm going to do part C first. Okay. Advise whether they should invest in this BSP manufacturing plant based on an NPV investment appraisal technique. Round all calculation working to the nearest 1,000. Okay. As you've been told before, be on the lookout for the verbs. Okay, the verbs advise, meaning you have to conclude, you have to say yes, do it, or don't do it. Okay. Or like we could have incorporated this into one question, one 20-mark question. So we say advise and discuss the factors by preparing an NPV calculation. So, always read the required properly. Okay. Now I've just put this into Excel, okay, for ease of reference, so that we can see what's going on here. Okay. In this scenario, it's actually a bit easier because we speak about the first year, second year, first of 3 years. But what you can also get here is the dates. Okay, so we might say this will be paid for on the 1st of January 2026 for argument's sake. Okay, so then I would advise it's better, instead of saying 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, to have the actual dates there. To say for argument's sake, to have 1 Jan 2026, just for argument's sake. Okay, to have that in there instead of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Another thing that is quite important here is that you've got to remember 1 January 2026 is for NPV purposes the same as 31 December 2025. Do you understand? Okay, so 1 January 26 is the same as 31 December 2025. Usually under additional information, we will tell you, you can assume that all cash flows happens at the end of the year, or it's happened, equally throughout the year, so that you can do it at the end of the year. Okay. Then, paying this plant, 58 million. Okay, so 58 million. Remember, it has to be rounded. Always try to stick to the rounding that we tell you. So in this required, we told you, keep it to the nearest 1,000. So 58 million divided by 1,000, you get the 58,000. Okay. It doesn't matter if this is financed by finance lease or a loan or whatever. The cash flow will be 58 million. Think of it like this. We will pay the supplier 58 million. Where we get the money for that, that is part of the finance decision. So the 58 million is when the actual cash flow goes to the supplier of this plant. Okay, and it's at the beginning of the year. Okay, so don't get confused when we tell you it is financed by a loan or a finance lease, something like that. That is a separate decision, the finance and investment decision. Okay, so all we want here is actual cash flows, 58 million. Okay, we do know that it's going to be sold for 1 million at the end of the plant for 4 years. Pretty simple. Now, working capital. Okay, people get confused on this. Remember, the basic principle we are following is incremental cash flows that we are paying, only the actual cash flows. So, working capital requirements will be 1.6 million at the end of the first year. Okay, usually more common would be to say the working capital will be required at the beginning of the year. This will increase to 1.8. So the requirements, okay, the requirements will increase to 1.8. It doesn't mean we are spending an additional 1.8. It's increasing from 1.6 to 1.8. Okay, I found that students understand it more properly if we actually think of what is the working capital requirements. The working capital requirements mean we have to pay inventory or raw materials. We have to pay suppliers. We might have to wait for payments from customers. That is working capital, and that has a cash flow effect. Okay, that is it. So this is almost your income statement part, the sales. This is the actual cash flow. That's why we bring working capital in here. Okay, so in this case, it was pretty simple with like 1.6, so it's an outflow at the end of the first year. It can also be at the start of the year. So it's not always going to be like that. You need to let the scenario guide you. Okay. Then important, only 200, only the incremental cash flows is added here. It's not another 1.8 million. So where I had to invest, think of when you do a free cash flow valuation and we give you the projections for inventory, trade payables, trade receivables, that you only have to include the movement because that is the actual cash flow. Okay. So the total of that, as you can see, is 2 million, and we will recoup it at the end of the year of only 75% will be recovered. Okay. So usually, in some cases, everything will be recovered. That's usually the case, especially where there's not inventory involved. I think the recoverability here can be related to bad debts or inventory written off, something like that. But only 1.5 is recovered, only 75%. Very important here, make sure about your directions. We are paying in the beginning. It makes sense. We have to buy the raw materials. We have to wait for the debtors to pay us. And in the end, once this project stops, we will collect all the money from the customers, and we won't have to pay the suppliers because we've already paid them here in year 3 and in the first 3 years. Okay. Then pretty simple for the working capital. Okay. Then we've got to talk about the sales. Okay. I like to go on, let's say, bullet format. So I set up my my tables, and when you're planning to write your answer, always have an extra column there just for in case there's a tax lag. Okay. Do not turn your paper, landscape. Keep it portrait. It will be better. We will try to keep it, a shorter period. Okay. And then go bullet by bullet. And then I will have my main cash flows here, and then I will have separate calcs. If I see, okay, it requires a bit of a calculation, I would have in here, I would say sales calc 1, and then I would do calc 1. Okay, so try to do that so you have it nice and neat and the layout is proper, even if your handwriting is not that great. Mine wasn't. I always made sure that it's easy to follow. Okay, it's like a manual. It's easy for the marker to follow or the reader to follow. Okay, so 15,000 per unit. In the second year, we will increase the price to 17,000. After that, it will increase every year by 12%. Okay, so it's by 12%. So we do the calculation. 10,000 units times 15,000 Rand. I'm just dividing it by 1,000 to stick to the rounding factor. Very simple. So don't get confused on the rounding. Okay. And remember, in the first year, just be sure what is the date you are working on. So if we might have told you in 2026, if we added dates to this, let's say 2026, 26, 27, 28, 29. I'm speaking about 2026. So remember that 1 January 2026 and 31 December 2026 is a year apart, even though it's in the same calendar year. We might tell you something like in 2025, the product sold for 15,000 Rand per unit, and it increases by 12% per year. Then you would need to make sure, okay, so that was last year. Now we have to increase by 12%. So that's the trick, where you make sure that you have the correct, let's say, inflation or growth adjusted in the correct period. That's what we will be looking for. Okay. In the next year, 17,000 Rand, still 10,000 units. And then we increase it by 12% thereafter. And in the last year, we have only 8,000 units times the 1940. Let me just go here for you. Okay, it increases by 12%. This only increased by 5%, and the units increased by 8,000. Okay. So this is also a little bit of a place where you can test you, where we can say, we can maybe bring in some standard costing or some more costing principles in here, is that we might tell you that the units will increase and the price will increase. Okay, so just be careful. That's why it's always good to have a separate calculation for this. And what we can also bring in here is limiting factors to say that the plant can only make, for argument's sake, 11,000, or it's only probable that we will sell 11,000, that you have to stop at the limiting factor. Okay, because remember, we're only looking at forward projected cash flows. So we can't sell more than what we have made. Okay, or we can't sell if there's not a demand for that. So be careful on the, let's say, the volume and then the price. Okay. Because this might increase by 5%, 12% in this case, and the units might increase by 5% for argument's sake. Okay. Then we have our sales figures in there. Make sure on the direction. Okay. Then the cost of sales. Okay. In this case, we gave you the cost of the product. Direct, important, meaning it's only variable direct cost will be attributed here. Normal fixed cost that is part of their normal business, it means it's only allocated to this, is not part of your NPV calc. Only incremental fixed cost. Only if I have to, rent out another factory, that is a fixed cost, but it's incremental because of this. Okay, this is where we can incorporate relevant costing as well. So in this case, it's pretty much the same as the sales. Remember again, these units should correlate. Okay, so even if we say we are making 11,000 units in the first year and we are only selling 10,000, that difference between the two is incorporated here in your working capital. Okay, so that's why we have the working capital in there. So on that basis, these units has to be the same. If we sell so many units, what is the cost of making that units? Okay, again, pretty simple. It was increased by 10%, 10%, then 5% in the last year, and the demand, they gave us a volume. We might ask you a high-low method in here to calculate the number of units. Again, we might bring in limiting factors. The cost, the increase in the selling price might be 12%, and the cost might increase by 8%. Okay, that means it's already inflation included. Okay, but they differ in that. Again, make a separate calc. Be sure of your direction in your cash flows. Okay, then we get to tax. Okay, we get to tax. Always, always, always have a separate calc for tax. So I brought down a tax calc here. Okay. We usually give a mark or a half a mark for bringing down the correct cash flows. As you can see, I brought down sales and cost of sales, meaning that the working capital is excluded. It's excluded. Think of it like this. When you're doing a tax calc from financial statements, you do not bring in the movement in working capital. You go to your statement of comprehensive income, and that's your starting point to work out. So usually there's a half a mark here for excluding capital expenditure and working capital. So it's just the profit. Okay. The plant, the equipment is taxable, so that has to be brought down again. Then the wear and tear, 40%, 20%, 20% brought in here. Remember, depreciation is not included in here because it's not a cash flow. And we are looking only at incremental variable cash flows that is forward-looking, that we include in our investment decision. Okay, very important. So we might confuse you here to say that the depreciation in the following years will be 2 million, 3 million, whatever. You do not include it in here because it's a non-cash flow. Okay, so the wear and tear, and then this part was actually quite interesting. Okay, remember, we invested 2 million rand in our working capital. Remember, let's say inventory and trade payables and trade receivables, but we only received 1.5. So we basically made a loss. That loss can be attributed to, let's say, bad debts or inventory written off, obsolete stock. And that we will get a deduction on that. So you see the difference in here. So that's actually a nice one, something different to include the changes in the working capital. And that will only happen in the fourth year. Okay, to say, okay, we are recovering our working capital. Then we have our taxable income. Okay, make sure you do it nice and separately and that we can see properly what's going on there. Times, in this case, is 28%, and it's moved up. Okay, be careful here if when we speak about assessed loss, or they have enough taxable profit in their other projects that the tax loss from the project can be absorbed, or there's a tax lag in there. Be sure that you are familiar with all the possible scenarios. Also be careful on Section 20 of the income tax, where only 80% of your loss, if it's above 1 million, will be allowed. That's why it's always better to have a separate tax calc. In this case, it's pretty forward. They make profit every year, but let's say they made a loss here. Do we put in a positive cash flow tax cash flow in here, that depends on what we give you in additional information. If we tell you that they have enough taxable profits in other projects or in the company as a whole that it can be absorbed, then you bring that in. If not, it is carried forward to the next year. Okay. The actual cash flow, we might tell you there's a 1-year tax lag, meaning that we don't pay the tax. So we have the profit here on, let's say, 31 December 2026, but we only pay that 3 months later when we submit it, okay? Because you have a 1 year's time to submit your returns. So we will tell you that please look out for that under additional information, where we say sufficient provisional tax were paid during the year, meaning that it's in that year, or we tell you it's a 1-year tax lag, meaning we pay it 1 year. So even if we pay the 6,800 year, we mean we pay that in the following year, and then that moves up 1 year. Okay. Then we have all our cash flows. Okay. We have our WACC. Okay. Then we do our NPV calc. Then, because the required set advice, okay, because it said advice, you have to conclude accept project because it's a positive value. Okay. Because it's positive. That's what we are looking for here. Okay. The reason why we are stopping with this, okay, the difference between a free cash flow valuation and an NPV calc is we are stopping with this project because we are selling this plant, meaning it stops. So there's nothing going to happen in the year 2030. Okay, we are stopping. But we, however, can give you something and say, okay, look, it's not going to stop. You're going to continue with this project forever. There might be some capital expenditure involved. Then you have to do a continuing value, okay? Just the same way you do a terminal value for a free cash flow valuation. Okay, so this project stops. It's given away by the fact that the units has decreased and we are selling this plant. If that does not happen, you might have to include a continuing value in here, just like you would do for a free cash flow. But the big trick or principle that you should remember here is when you do a continuing value, you can only do a continuing value or a terminal value if the growth from that day forward is constant. So be on the look for that growth is constant after year 2030 or something like that. Before that, you apply what we tell you in the scenario. In this case, we tell 12%, 5%, 10%, etc. going forward. Okay. Really simple, easy, nice place to gain some marks. Quite popular at SAICA that they ask that to do that. Be aware of sunk cost. You include your costing principles like relevant costing. Do we have the material? Only variable labor or additional labor should be added. All things like that. You know, we are looking, stick to the principle. We are looking at cash flows, incremental cash flows that we are included here. Okay. We might throw in something, maybe a foreign investment might be included in here, that you might have to take the cash flows at the end of the year, multiply by the different rates. That can be something that we can put in there. And then something that I really like is sensitivity analysis. So I put this in Excel on purpose, and we can ask you, how sensitive is this? But remember, because we are making projections here. So if you are sitting there on, you know, in the boardroom and you have to decide, should I make the solar panels? And they are telling you, look, we're going to sell 10,000 units. I might ask them, what if we change this to 8,000 units? Let's say we only sell 8,000 units like this. You see the NPV decreases. You see. So that is sensitivity analysis. We can do this on the cost of the product. Let's say the plant costs 58 million, but what if it increases to 65 million due to something like the war in Iran? You see, it decreases. Okay, so that's what we are. We do sensitivity analysis. See how sensitive this investment is. Let's say our WACC increases to 20%, 20.25. How does it change? Okay, when is it still profitable for us? When does it still create shareholder wealth? That's what sensitivity analysis is. Okay, but this is actually a fun topic. It's a nice topic. I think it happens every day for financial managers in companies. So, and it's a good place to earn some marks. Then the second part here, again, put yourself in that boardroom, is where we look at the qualitative factor. So here we've looked at it purely from a quantitative perspective to say, okay, look, it will create shareholder wealth. But as we are in the 21st century, we don't only look for shareholder wealth, we look at qualitative factors, non-financial factors as well. Okay. This was very, very simple, and they included the word here briefly. Okay. If the word briefly was not in there, we should have, we, you know, your answer should have had a bit more bulk, you know, the discussion depth here, to maybe look at that as well. So there is some usual suspects, you know, do we have the knowledge and capabilities? Won't it distract us from our core business? What are the competitors? Do we have capacity? Can we repeat this in the future? So there's usual suspects when you do a qualitative factors, you know, what will be the morale of the employees and everything like that. And I am not against having those usual answers, you know, ready, but you've got to apply it to the scenario. We don't like to see, they call it a shopping list, or I call it the spaghetti method, that you just throw in random sentences that you've heard before, and you hope something sticks. We as markers can see that, and then we see you don't understand properly the principle. So for solar panels, you know, we did have a big problem with our energy crisis, and Eskom was in trouble. Now we don't have any problems with. We haven't had load shedding in 2 years now. So do people still want to buy solar? We want you to see how you think. And the best way to do that is imagine yourself within that boardroom. What would you say if you're in that boardroom? Most of you are working students already, so you're probably doing your articles. Imagine yourself in that boardroom, or even drinking coffee at the watering hole, and you discuss it with a colleague. What would you think? Think for yourself rather than trying to remember what you saw in previous questions. That is my best advice for discussion parts of the question. And discussion part of the question, you gain a bigger database of understanding if you work out questions after questions after questions. Then your knowledge is a bit more. Okay. So that concludes our session for today. I hope you can get something out of us, and then good luck with your studies going forward, and we will speak again soon. Have a great day.